Hello and welcome to OLA 2022. Thank you so much for joining us in this session, Set Your Sites on a Virtual Learning Commons, Transforming Your Website with Google Sites. I'm Martha Pangburn and this is Chloe Pesh, and we are librarians at Norman High School in Norman. And we are so excited to be here today to talk to you about transforming your website and the pieces that make a website effective for our users. So we mentioned virtual learning commons in our title. So what exactly is a virtual learning commons? Here is the definition from Dr. David Lorcher that I'm going to read to you and kind of talk about what this means to us. A learning commons is a common or shared learning space that is both physical and virtual. It is designed to move students beyond mere research, practice, and group work to a greater level of engagement through exploration, experimentation, and collaboration. The Learning Commons is more than a room or a website. It allows users to create their own environments to improve learning. It's about changing school culture and about transforming the way learning and teaching occur. The Virtual Learning Commons is the online force of the Learning Commons. It's a digital learning community in which the whole school participates. So we do strongly believe in this idea of the Learning Commons, that it's a shared space where many types of activities happen. And that's what our physical space is like. And that's what we desire for our virtual space as well. So while we don't necessarily adhere to all of the specifics that Dr. Lorcher talks about when he talks about virtual learning commons, we do see the value in that, and we're just going to kind of talk through the elements that we think are important in a learning commons.
So you may be wondering why Google Sites. So Google Sites is a free website builder that is easy to use for both librarians that are building their virtual learning commons and the school community accessing the site. It's unlikely to be blocked by school filters, and we love that it is free and super easy to learn.
So we're going to talk about the key components.
So the first key component is the homepage. So as Martha mentioned earlier, your website is an extension of your physical space, and the homepage is going to be your user's first impression. The homepage should include your most important and most looked for information and sources. So some things that we like to include are quick links to things like your catalog, ebooks, book recommendations, things like that. Contact and social media information for anybody who is in your space, and an about your library section with things like current events and your library purpose/mission statement. So for each component, we're going to walk you through some examples of different websites. So we're going to start with our own, which is our high school example. So up here at the top, you can see our quick links. So these images were just pulled from open source image searches. And then we have links to Sora, our catalog, suggesting a purchase, our digital book displays, which we'll talk about in more detail later, and our book recommendation form, all up here at the top, so that kids are really able to access any of these things very easily. If you scroll down, you can see all of our social media feeds. We are at a high school, so we have lots of social media to reach our different stakeholders, and then our contact us. So there's two librarians in our space, me and Martha. We have a library secretary, and then our tech support specialist and innovative learning coach also work in our space. So we have their information down here. We have some of our current events up here, so Cookies and Books and Maker Club. We also have our Facebook feed embedded. That's just a personal choice that we have, and a cool feature of Google Sites. And then all Norman libraries have a shared mission statement and core values that we have on the bottom of our website. And we just think that's really important to kind of have front and center on your website for people to see. So we also have a middle school example, because we know that our users vary at different age groups. So we want to show you guys what that can look like. So again, they have quick links. You can see that these are bigger and there's less of them. So just finding books, which is the catalog, ebooks, and then a link to the research page. And I believe that these graphics were made from Canva, which is a great tool for creating cute graphics. And then if you scroll down, they have a couple of other links. And then they have, again, their social media as well as email information down here. And again, that mission statement. So it looks a little bit different. It's very, it's a little bit more visual, just bigger graphics. So that's something that you may consider when you're working with younger students. And even more so I'll show you the elementary example. It's even more just like graphic oriented. There's a lot less text on this one. With all of those quick links, it's very clear what everything is. So this is Wilson Elementary, and if it'll load here, you can see very obviously a link back to the elementary school, the catalog, the public library, social media, email. So it's very visual. There's not a lot of options to make it even easier for our youngest users to access library resources from wherever they are. Okay, and our next section is going to be the library calendar.
So including your library calendar on your website is really helpful. It allows your stakeholders to see what you value and how you spend your time. And it can also allow teachers to schedule time with you or time in your space or both together. So this can look a couple of different ways, and we'll show you those examples. One could just be sharing your librarian's, your personal calendar with your schedule for teaching, meetings, presentations, basically your availability, right? So that your teachers in your building know when you're available. The other option is to use a Google appointment calendar. That's what we use at Norman High. And it allows our teachers to schedule our spaces independently. They also email us to collaborate and plan, but they're able to schedule our space on their own through that appointment calendar. So once again, we have some examples here. So our high school example is our library appointment page. So we schedule more than one space in our on our appointment calendar page. So we have 2 classroom spaces. So this is what our appointment calendar looks like for our classroom spaces. So teachers are able to just click on one of the gray boxes and schedule that space in our library. It's very easy to use. They just have to be logged into their school Google account. And it's as simple as just like 2 or 3 clicks to schedule that space. And then we also schedule a space across the hall from our library that is we call it our seminar room. It's the size of 2 classrooms. And so larger classes meet in there and guest speakers and all sorts of special events. So we schedule that space as well. So that is what our appointment calendar looks like. We do have places at the top here, some information about scheduling and links to our emails so that teachers are aware that we want to collaborate and co-teach with them. And we want to work with them when they use our space. And so that's there as well. All right, so our middle school example looks a little bit different. So this is an example of having the teachers or the librarian's calendar. So she has this at the bottom of her teacher resource page. And so you can see a link right here, library space, calendar, and reservations. And then when I click on it, it actually is going to ask me if I want to add this calendar to my calendar. So then I'm able to see those reservations. So I'm not going to actually add that calendar, but that's what that would look like. And then our elementary example shows this librarian's calendar, so her calendar, and it shows what she's got going on, when she's on duty, when she's teaching, so people can just see her availability that way. So there's different options for how this could look. So it's really about what works best for you and your stakeholders. All right, the next key component
So obviously, as librarians, we do a lot of research. So you want to have a page dedicated to research. So it serves as a hub for all research resources to be kind of organized in one place, allowing the school community to access school databases, other helpful websites, and learn about research skills. So some of the kind of sections that we have in our research resources page are databases and websites. We've got links to school and state purchased databases, as well as other commonly used research websites that we know that our students make use of. We have a citation guide. For secondary students, creating citations is a crucial research skill. And so this page includes links and information to assist with creating those citations. And then we have a tutorials page. So we've got tutorials for databases and other research skills. And some of these videos we've created, but others we've borrowed from YouTube. So some of our databases have a library of short tutorial videos that we can just link there and not have to create our own. So it just kind of has a combination of both. So looking at our website, this is our research page. And so we have a kind of table of contents up here at the top because this is a longer web page. And it's really easy to do that in Google Sites. So we love that. And then we kind of have it organized by databases. We have login information here. So if students need to access our databases from home, they do have to log in. And we have that information on a Google Doc that students can access with their Norman Public Schools email account. So that way we're not sharing that information with the public, but our students are still able to access it regardless of where they are. Again, these graphics are just from the databases, and we cropped them and adjusted them to be used in these squares. So these are the databases that are paid for, and then we have general research, so things like Google Scholar, Newsela, Smithsonian, National Institute of Health, stuff like that we know our kids use a lot. We have linked here. And then we also have links to other libraries. So we collaborate a lot with both our public and the college library in our area, OU. And so we have those linked here. And then we have some tools that are commonly used for research. So Google Keep for note-taking, Grammarly for proofreading your papers, and Noodle Tools is the citation tool that we primarily use. And then some links to copyright-free images. At the top, though, you can see our drop-down here because I talked about citation guide. So that's a separate page that we link from research. And again, like I mentioned, we use Noodle Tools. So we have a link to it as well as the slideshow tutorial embedded here with different things and links to Purdue OWL and other types of citation information for students. And then again, our tutorials page, we have both videos and slideshows embedded on here. One thing that's really awesome about Google Sites is that if you have a Google slideshow, for example, you can embed it and they can click through it without having to leave your website. They don't need to download anything. You can also embed YouTube videos really easily. So if it'll load for me here, I'll show you what that looks like. And put them next to each other and things like that. So again, kids aren't having to go to different pages. It's all on one thing. So we love that. It's really easy to do. So that is one of the big appeals of using Google Sites. So our middle school example, this one is from Longfellow Library. So we've been looking at Irving, but this is a different middle school in our district. And theirs is organized really similarly to ours, but they just have different databases because, some of the databases are different from school to school. Their research sites are a little bit, there's different ones because they do different researches. Copyright-free images, all kind of the same concept. And then they also have a citations page, which they also use Noodle Tools at the middle school. So I think it looks a lot like ours. It just has a link to that slideshow that we've shared with them. And then the tutorials, theirs was going to be some of the same ones as ours, but then they don't have all of the ones for the Gale databases because they don't use the Gale databases at the middle school. So they have less sort of tutorials on there. So it looks really similar to ours, just with kind of pared down resources. Our elementary example is from Adams. So theirs looks a little bit different than either the high schools or the elementaries. So they've got their catalog and their public library linked here, Sora. But then if you scroll down, it's very visual. So Pebble Go, Scholastic Go, EBSCO, explore at different things. Again, it's the same concept. You've got databases, you've got websites, stuff like that. It's just very like simple and big. And so at our elementary schools, our kids have iPads, not computers. So it's really easy for them to tap on those pictures to then take you to the link to the database. And that's something that we encourage with all levels, is making sure you link both text and images, just so that it makes it as user-friendly as possible. And then we did want to show an early childhood example, just because I think that that's sometimes a little bit harder to visualize. So we have a Truman Primary School that's pre-K through first grade, pre-K through second grade. And so it's very, very basic. Again, iPad friendly, which is what those students use. And so they just click on it. And again, like their websites look different even than the elementary, because they're using different types of things for resources. So feel free to click through these with the ones that are most relevant to what kind of school you work at. Okay.
So the next key component is a virtual makerspace. So this page serves as a virtual makerspace, allowing the school community to access digital creation tools, tutorials, and information about in-person creation. So we are fortunate we have a physical makerspace in our library, but we have created a virtual makerspace page that allows students to use the digital tools that are available. And so we have links to vetted digital creation tools on that page. We also have information about our physical makerspace on when and how students can access the space and use the tools, make appointments with us for help, those kinds of things, as well as tutorials for many of those creation tools. And like Chloe said earlier, some of these are things we've created, some of them were created by our friends at the public library, and others just came straight from YouTube. So there's a variety of tutorials available. So our examples. So at Norman High, we call our page, our virtual makerspace page, Create. And so we have it organized according to the type of tool. So we start with video creation tools. So we've got those icons and those links, but then we also have links here that are entire slideshows just about video creation tools, for example, or just about audio creation tools. So we try to provide as much information as possible. So these tools or these links to these slideshows are great because they can really help students decide which tool is going to be best for the project that they're working on or for what they want to specifically create. So we have infographics, writing tools, art tools, etc. So lots of great resources here that are easily clickable. And then if you go back up to the top to the Create menu, you'll see we do have a separate page that goes directly to those tutorials that I mentioned. And so those are really helpful. We are not experts on every single tool that is available to our students. That would be impossible, right? So we have lots of information here to help our students work through using these types of tools. And then we also have under Create, we have our Makerspace page. So this is going to have the specific information about our space, when it's open, how to use it, what tools do we have, those kinds of things. We've got some pictures, a little slideshow that's kind of fun to see different aspects of what we do in our makerspace. And so this page gives that information. And then we also have a page under Create as well that shows some of the projects and products that our students have created using our makerspace tools, both physical and virtual tools or digital tools. And so we have examples of those along with their research questions, which I think is super fun to look at. So we've got projects from Algebra 2, physical science. You can see examples of 3D printing, of art, of woodworking, sculpting, just a variety of examples here that are really fun to look at. So we like to show off when our students create amazing work. And so we think our virtual learning commons is a really great place to do that. All right, so our middle school example is from Whittier. And you can see here, hers is a little more simplified. She's got some tutorials here, some real specific tutorials, you know, for example, how to use an image from Google with the Cricut. Like that's something that the librarian discovered that her students needed to know and needed help with. And so she added that tutorial to this page. So you can see how it's very personalized to what tools and the needs, to what tools the school has, and also to the needs of the students. And so you can just see those examples down here. And then she does have some links to digital tools using Assembly here at the bottom. And then she had some fun digital makerspace challenges. So project ideas, design challenges, those kinds of things that she used her website for as well. And then our elementary example, I believe is from Truman Elementary. And so she has her makerspace page that shows what equipment they have available. She's got instructional videos again. She has some examples of student work over here with the Lego pixel art and patterns. And so that's kind of fun to get to see pictures of their work. So that's pretty cool. So you can see it, you know, it has many of the same elements, but it clearly looks very different across the different grade levels.
So again, as librarians, we obviously love promoting reading and talking about books. And so we have a reading center that promotes a culture of reading by allowing students to access books and readers advisory tools virtually. We really buffed up this section during virtual learning, but we kept so many of the things that we created during that time because they're still really useful to kids. We've gotten great feedback. So we link the library catalog so that kids can see what's available in your library or from other schools in the district. Ebooks, so at our school we use Sora through Overdrive, so whatever ebook platform that you guys use. And then readers advisory tools. So we've got links to things like awards winners, Goodreads, Novelist. We have our book recommendation form and our digital displays, and those did come about during virtual learning. And so we'll kind of show you what that looks like for us and how we use it even when we're in person. So our reading page looks like this. It's just called Read. And again, we have a lot of those same quick links from our homepage, right? We've got ebooks, we've got finding a book. Our book recommendation form looks like this. And this is just another reminder to link both the picture and the text. It just makes it more user-friendly. So we have a Google form that we created for book recommendations, and it just has information about like what grade they're in, what kinds of books and authors they've liked, you know, all those kinds of questions you would ask in person for readers advisory on a Google form. And we obviously needed this when we were doing virtual learning, but we found that once we're back, there are some students who either are really busy and so they don't have time to come to the library, or they're just really shy and don't necessarily feel comfortable, you know, talking to an adult about what they like to read. Or some people just need that like visual, like those visual questions. When you put them on the spot, they're like, I don't know what I like. And so this book recommendation form has been really nice. And then we just email.
Yeah, go ahead.
We just email students recommendations, either ebook links or links to the catalog, and they can place holds on them based on what they've submitted.
I was just going to say that I actually had a student in a reading for pleasure class that was literally sitting not quite as close to me as Chloe is, but close to me, filling out the form. And I was on my computer looking at her responses. Mm-hmm. And then I went and got books for her. And that was what made her feel comfortable. And so we love that it's something that we did in virtual, you know, during virtual learning has now become part of our like regular practice. And so just a plug for that.
Yeah, and like we have a sheet that we use to keep track of this, and it also helps because like we can all work together, like collaborate on to find the best recommendations. I know a lot of you work on your own, but if you are lucky enough to have other people in your space, an assistant or a co-librarian, it's really nice to be able to do that. Okay, so then we have links to our digital book displays. So this was another thing that kind of came from COVID. We wanted kids to still be able to browse our physical books. And so what we did is we picked some genres. We did like Sequoia, mystery thriller, fantasy, romance. We've got like a Read with Pride, science fiction, graphic novels, horror, sports. We've got an inverse section because our kids love books in verse. And so what these are Google slideshows that are all embedded in here. And again, you can view them without like leaving the page. So you can click, we have like the picture of the book. We have how many pages it has, a very brief like annotation, and then links to place a hold in the regular catalog and links for Sora if it's available on there. And our kids have loved these. Our teachers love them as well. They embed them in Canvas, which is our LMS, for students to kind of click through before coming to the library. So they sometimes have a good idea of what they're looking for. Again, it's just another easy way to kind of browse books that was really nice during virtual learning and has still continued to be very useful.
And you can click to pop those out.
Yes.
If they're, if they're too small on a screen. So that is nice as well.
Yeah.
Once again, all the Google products like work so well together, and we are a Google school. And so using Google Sites for our virtual learning commons just makes perfect sense because everything works together so nicely.
Yes. And then we have links to like the Sequoia list, novelist. We actually have a whole page dedicated to Hoopla because through Pioneer, our kids have access to it. But it's a little bit more complicated than Overdrive. So we have some information on how to get started and different things on there for kids. And again, this is just a like proof of that your commons is always like growing because we didn't have that until virtual learning. And then it became something that our kids use it all the time, but they were always asking us for that information. And so we created that page. And again, just links to different awards winners down here and a tutorial on how to use the catalog. We do have a YouTube channel with book talks, so we have that playlist embedded down here as well.
There was a read menu too, don't forget, up at the top.
Oh yeah.
Anything else?
It just goes to the digital book displays. Yeah, so if they want to go straight to it. Okay, so our middle school example is Irving. And so again, you can see really similar to ours, right? She's taking those quick links that are specific to reading. Hers is called Reader's Corner, which I think is super cute. Links to the Sequoia book review. They have a YouTube channel. If you look at their drop-down menu, they have their book club information, a Sora how-to, some stuff for their banned books week. So again, it just kind of is always growing, and how you organize it is just going to be based on like you and your students' preferences. And then our elementary example is again from Truman Primary. So this is intended even for the youngest of kiddos. They have information on checking out an ebook. There's a print guide, a how-to video, and a link. So if there are any grown-ups helping the kids, they can read it. If not, they can try to look at the video. They have a flip grid of their book talks, which probably makes sense for younger kids. Maybe you don't want to direct them straight to YouTube. They have some other like book finding tools on here that kids can again access from those iPads, which is really nice for those youngest students.
Another key component of a virtual learning commons is, of course, the curricular connections. We've already talked about research some, but we think it's really important to have some kind of curricular connection page that really serves as a hub for the units that you are collaborating and co-teaching on. And so we create essentially pathfinders on our library website for students to use. And then also we showcase work related to those curricular units that we've worked with teachers and students on. So those pathfinders, are what provides curated links to library resources and other types of resources that are going to be important for students to use in a particular unit. And then, of course, the showcasing of students' work really provides a place for everyone in the school community and other stakeholders to view those student projects. So our examples. At Norman High, we call this page class content, and it's one of our menu up here at the top. And then we have our current units that we're currently worked on linked up here at the top and visible. But then on this page, if you scroll down below the current units, you'll also see past units. And so we keep all of that here. So it's really helpful as we, do the same unit again the next year, but then we've learned a lot, and so we grow it and we change it as we go. And so, but it always kind of gives us a starting point for what that looks like. So I'm going to click on one of these links. You can see it looks very similar to our research page, but it is specially curated resources specifically for whatever unit the class is working on. So for example, our AP English 4 students are currently working on a literary criticism research paper. And so we have literary criticism sources here listed. So we don't have all of our databases because not all of those databases are going to be helpful. And so it's very curated here. And then we have other information that is helpful for that particular unit. Sometimes we'll link, teachers will link their handouts from here. We have links to other libraries, just whatever we think is going to be the most helpful for that particular unit. When we worked with this class, we actually had them take notes about the resources. And so that handout is linked here, that Google Doc. And so it's just really helpful to have everything kind of in one place. We really want students to see our library website as like a starting point and a launch pad for whatever kind of research they're doing. And so that's why we like to create kind of that specialized page that really provides them everything they need in one place, including tutorials or any other things that we use with the class. So that's just one example of ours. And they all look very similar. Like I said, they're just specialized based specifically on that unit.
One thing that we'll also sometimes link is if we do any presentations about, say, search terms or creating research questions, things like that, we'll also embed those slideshows into the bottom there. They just weren't on that one because those kids have already done that.
So here's an example from Alcott. And so it's very similar where she's got class resources is what she calls it. And she's got links here. So they were doing lit circles. So here's the choices. And then there's a button down here where they can submit a Google form with the choice for their lit circle. So just another example of what that could look like at a different grade level. And then at the elementary level, this example is from Truman Elementary. And so she has her links here. 3rd grade, famous Oklahoma research. She's got 4th and 5th grade, have lots of links. She's a 3rd through 5th grade school. So that's why you see that. But when we click on her famous Oklahomans, so you've got this list of people. And then, she actually has curated specific resources for those people, which once again is appropriate for 3rd grade, but different than what our page looks like at high school. So, all right. The next key component.
Yeah, so I think our last key component is the teacher center. So we also want the library website to be utilized by our teachers. So this serves as a hub for our staff and houses frequently needed tools and information. So we have links for tech tools where we provide links and tutorials for vetted tech tools teachers can use in their classes. We have learning management system information. This came about very quickly during virtual learning to provide tutorials and answers to frequently asked questions about your school's learning management system. Ours is Canvas, and then copyright information. So frequently asked questions and guidelines for common issues. So we did collaborate with our innovative learning coach on this page specifically for tech tools and learning management system information, as well as we kind of collaborated with other librarians in the district, I think, for some of this stuff too. So even if you're by yourself in a space, sometimes talking to other librarians or other like tech coaches, things like that can give you good ideas of what to put on this webpage. So ours looks like this. And again, it is always growing and changing. So ours is called Teacher Center. And we have Canvas resources, tech tools, and copyright. So if you click on the Canvas resources page, we have like login information, and then we have Google Docs with all sorts of questions that we got about how to do things in Canvas. How do I cross list? How do I grade? You know, we've got slideshows. How do you connect parents with Canvas? And again, some of those videos too, like Google Cloud assignments, different things that we were just being asked a lot. And we did not create all of these documents. Like I said, it was a team effort across the district for everybody that was learning Canvas at the same time. There was a lot of sharing resources going on, but we thought that having this page where any email that got sent out about, hey, this is how you do this in Canvas, teachers didn't have to look for those emails. They could know they could come straight to this Canvas page on our website and find any of those things, because we were getting emails, you know, as everybody was figuring these things out. So just kind of that library of sorts of tutorials. And then we have our tech tools, which we've done this a couple different ways. So right now we've got information about HyperDocs. Well,
our internet has been on the struggle bus this week.
yes.
So.
There's supposed to be a s'more down here of some other commonly used tech tools. It's just, I don't know if it's going to load for us. There, maybe. Yeah, tech tools for teachers. And so this one was from our instructional technology coach. So she created this. And so it's constantly being updated as we learn different ways to best share these. So this is organized by types of tools, and teachers can browse through these at any time. There's a lot of tech tools out there, and so it can be overwhelming to just Google tech tools. So we like to kind of serve as that curator in that sense. And then our copyright page is pretty basic. I mean, we have a video from the district about copyright and remote learning, a bibliography of copyright resources. And that's basically it on that one. Okay, so our middle school example is from Irving again. And so theirs looks a little bit different. Again, it's just like links to different tools. They did more like our other pages, the research pages, where they just embedded the links with images. And then information down here, like the calendar, accessing the database, and then some resource collections that they found for things that specific teachers may be interested in, as well as links to standards. If we go back to our elementary example, this one is similar to Irving, where they just have those specific tools linked. Again, it's very basic and just kind of easy to access. So there's a few different ways you can do it. You can embed different tools like Wakelets or Symbaloo, or in our case, a s'more, or you can go ahead and just embed those links. So it'll be up to you and whoever else is collaborating with you, which one works best for you.
So there is one more key component, and this is recommended pages and links. So these are kind of those things that we think every virtual learning commons should include. Pages, for example, like about the librarian. So include a bio and a picture of yourself to provide more information for your stakeholders. highlight the cool things that you're doing by sharing annual reports on your library website, and then link back to your school website. Make sure that you're connecting back to the larger school community. All of these things can really show what you value as a librarian and a library. And I think that's really important for stakeholders to see. So some examples. Oh, do we not have examples? I guess we don't have examples of that. I'm so sorry.
So our best practices, like tips and tricks for building your virtual learning commons. So the first thing is that when you create a Google site, it's not going to have a short URL. It's going to be Google site / blah, 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 blah. And so it's helpful to have a tiny URL or a bit.ly that can make your website easier to access. For example, ours is tinyurl.com/NormanHighLit. That being said, we put this on a lot of things, but our kids don't really use it. The way they access our library is by Googling Norman High Library. And because we do use Google Sites, they like to promote their own websites. And so it's the first thing that pops up. And so they're able to click on it and then like add it to their bookmarks or whatever. So we recommend having it, but it's not the main way that we have kids access our website, at least. Our website is obviously linked from our school's website as well. You want to make sure everything is clickable. I know I've said this a lot of times, but you want to make sure that your images and your text are clickable, because that way there's no confusion. They can click either one. And then have a plan. So it helps to outline your website content and then identify where you want that content to go. So you can do this as formally or as informally as you prefer. You can just have like a basic outline, a hand-drawn wireframe, which is just like an example of what your website will look like, or a digitally created wireframe, etc. I mean, I think when we did it, we already had a website. So we were kind of identifying what pieces we wanted to keep, what we wanted to change. And I think we had a combination of like a handwritten outline and a kind of hand-drawn wireframe. I'm very visual, so I needed to see those spaces. And we kind of did it page by page once we had that big outline.
Some other best practices. We think it's really important to brand your library. So use your school colors on your website, be consistent with your theme. We used Canva to create a library logo that we put on pretty much everything that we, put out there, either in print or digitally. And then we use Canva a lot to create all of our other graphics. So everyone can get every educator can have a free education account on Canva, which gives you access to everything on Canva, all the premium resources. And the quality of the images, for example, that you can get with that educator account is just like mind-blowing. Like it's amazing what you can create, such professional work, even if you have no background in graphic design at all. But I think it's really important to, be consistent, use those colors. There are different tools for like finding out what the color code is for from a website or a graphic. And so be consistent with that. And I think users appreciate that visual consistency. Also make sure you're following district policies, whatever your district policy is for websites. Like we have to have a statement at the bottom of our website that's required by our district. And then also using student images and work. So know what the policy is for that. Make sure you're aware if you have students whose images cannot be shown. And just, once again, just be aware and follow those policies. And then one of the coolest parts about Google Sites is really how easy it is to use. But if you don't know how to do something, just Google it. There are so many tutorials out there on the web, and you can pretty much find anything you need by Googling it. And so that's true for lots of resources, but especially the Google products. There's a lot of helpful information. People will create step-by-step videos teaching you how to do things if you don't know how to do something.
So we kind of created this slide as like a step-by-step, like if you're like, oh my gosh, how do I do this? Here is something that you could kind of have pulled up as you're working. So step one, outline your site. So if you have a current website, look at it, look at other school library websites and gather ideas for what pages you want to include. What are the main components? So those key components that we've been talking about is a great place to start. Create a Google site and choose a theme. Okay, so they have different themes that are all cohesive. They're all fairly simple, which I think is actually a good thing for Google because we want it to look nice. And so they make it easy for us to do that. And it helps you understand what options you have when organizing your content. I think maybe some of the examples you saw that our menu is all up on the top, but we saw some examples where the menus are on the side. That's an example of how those themes can be different, even though all of the websites do look sort of similar. The third step is wireframing or organizing your content. So deciding where your content will go on each page. You can do this all at once or one page at a time. And this process is iterative. So you are going to rearrange these pages probably more than once before you even originally publish it. And as the school year goes on, just like our libraries in general, it's always changing. So you're never married to exactly what it looks like. As we find new tools and new things that we can do, our website's gone through many makeovers just in the 4 years that I've been here. And again, it can be as like just some scribbles on a notepad, or it can be, you know, a fancy wireframe. It really is just up to you. And then start designing your pages. So create graphics when needed, include content from your previous site, make sure all your links are working, all of that kind of stuff. It's sometimes really helpful to have somebody else go back over your website and kind of double check things. So even if you are in a library by yourself, maybe you have a teacher friend or somebody who's willing to kind of click through and make sure that everything is working, or maybe it's a student, I don't know. Sometimes you can get feedback from both and kind of go from there. And then step 5 is obviously to publish your site and create that tiny URL/bit.ly. Have your school webmaster update the link to your library website from the school and from the district. That's really important because you don't want them going to a website that doesn't exist.
On the note of checking links, remember if you're going to link Google slideshows or Google Docs, make sure that you have the sharing settings set appropriately. So if you want anyone on the web to be able to view it, make sure you click it, you share it that way. So just be aware of that. And that's why it's good, like, you know, go home and have your, you know, someone at your house, you know, check out your website and see if they can access things from their personal device, things like that. So you really want to make sure that all of those links are shared appropriately so that people have access. And if you want it to only be your staff or your students, you can set it that way as well. Just know that it won't show up for anyone else wanting to view that content. So, but just something to remember.
Yeah, that's a great point.
All right, so if you have any questions, we would love for you to email us. This presentation is on the OLA conference website, so you can access this presentation. That way, you are welcome to visit our library, our website, our virtual learning commons at tinyurl.com/normanhighlib. Please feel free to email us with any questions. We would love to collaborate with you, to work with you, provide any feedback we can as you work through this process. We do have our works cited. This is the article that quote came from that we used at the beginning. So you're welcome to, if you want to know more about Dr. Lorcher and the Virtual Learning Commons, this is a great article. And So
thank you guys so much for joining us at OLA 2022. Please remember to complete the session evaluation form. You could do that on the conference app, on the website, or by scanning this QR code here on the screen. We are happy to have you guys, and we hope that you will join us for many more conference sessions.
Thank you.